Good morning, children. Welcome to history class. I hope all are fine. See, in the last class, we were discussing about the Mesopotamian civilization, which originated in the banks of in Iraq or in the region of Iraq and Kuwait in West Asia. Under the Mesopotamian civilization, there were four different types of civilization, that is the Sumerian civilization, Akkadian civilization, Babylonian civilization, and the Assyrian civilization. I think with this giving a small introduction about the civilization, I finished the class in the last session. Now let us understand what sort of society, how was the state doing the administration under the Mesopotamian civilization. Whenever we talk of Mesopotamian civilization, information relating to the four different types of civilizations will be given in any of the texts under the Mesopotamian civilization, because initially the Sumerian civilization came into existence and later it was succeeded by the Akkadian civilization. Then the Babylonians overruled the Akkadian civilization, and finally it ended with the Assyrian civilization. Now the information related to all these topics are available under the Mesopotamian civilization. Now let us learn what sort of society was prevalent in the Mesopotamian civilization. During the Sumerian civilization, there were so many states available, that is, cities were there. The civilization developed in many cities, and the typical Sumerian city, how it was like, it was covered by all cultivable lands. The city was in the center, and it was covered by all the lands which was cultivated by the peasants. And the fortified Sumerian cities had temples called ziggurats at its center. See, surrounding in the center, the city was there, and the city was literally fortified. Fortified means having huge walls, and the temples were constructed in the cities, and these tall towered temples were called as ziggurats. How were they called as? Ziggurats. Underline this. The temples were called as ziggurats, and it was at the center of the city. And the temple was controlled by the priest, and the priest, the scribes, and the nobles, all these people were a part of the government. The ruler and the priest, they occupied the top position in the civilization, that is the king and the priest. They were the people of much importance in the Sumerian civilization. And after that, scribes were appointed. Scribes means the people who are appointed by the ruler to take care of certain important royal activities. So the scribes were appointed by the rulers, and the merchants and artisans were in the next hierarchy. Hierarchy means order of rank, order of their position. You call it as hierarchy. The scribes were only in charge of maintenance of all the taxes which the priests collected. Okay, the priests were collecting the taxes, and the scribes were the people who were doing the accounting process of maintenance of the taxes which are collected by the priests. And these temples, these temples were acting as storehouses. Whatever that, on those days, a tax was collected in the form of commodities only, because currency was not prevalent on those days. Whatever was available in those areas where they had the civilization, that particular which was found in abundant, that was used as a medium of exchange. So they used to give the taxes in the form of kind. Kind means any commodity which they were producing. If people living in coastal area, their shells were available in large quantities, and the bones of the sea animals were available in large quantity. Pearls were available. People who lived in the forest region, there more of the horns were available, and the teeth of animals were available, and the plummules of the birds were available. So tax was, and whatever they were growing, that was given as a tax to the the priests and all that, because the priests were only collecting the taxes. And not only that, these ziggurats, that is tall towered temples, they were acting as storehouses for storing all the commodities which were collected as taxes. Assemblies were created for administration of the state, that is, group of people were formed together and they created assemblies. They were only taking care of the administration of the state. of the state. State here means their civilization. And the cultivable lands, okay, it was owned by the king and the people who are belonging to the higher class of the hierarchy. Okay, the high class people who are in the rank of priest, that is the scribes, merchants, these people were only the owners of the cultivable lands. Of course, the peasants, who are the people who went into the land and did the cultivation, they remained to the temple in the early of the Mesopotamian civilization, and later on, the latter part of the civilization, they were also freed and they were allowed to live in the cities. So, and in the cities, not all people were allowed to live in the cities. Only the people belonging to the royal hierarchy were only allowed to live in the cities, and the poor peasants were allowed to live in the land which was adjoining the cultivable areas. The Assyrian Empire was the first. You could see the picture here, the ziggurats of the Ur. Assyrian Empire was the first military state in history. They emerged militarily powerful because they were the earliest to use iron technology very effectively. See, these people, the Assyrians, they developed iron technology. As they invented iron and as they made so much of weapons with iron, they were the first people to have a military state, that is bringing other people under their control. How was it possible? Because of the use of iron implements, they were able to have a very effective military power role. Next is, what sort of food and agriculture, what was the nature of food and agriculture? Agriculture was their main occupation of the Mesopotamians, whether it is Assyrians or Sumerians or Akkadians or Babylonians. They mainly depended on agriculture. And not only that, they developed a good irrigation system because they wanted to utilize the water which was available in a very effective manner for agriculture. And apart from that, what all did they cultivate? They cultivated wheat, barley, onions, turnips, grapes, apples and dates. I think all these you should be knowing what are these. And they learn how to domesticate cattle. They domesticated sheep and goats, and fish was one of their many very important part of their diet. Next is about the trade and exchange. Trade was one of the important activity of the Mesopotamian people. So here there were so much of artisans and potters who made different commodities using their their skills of pottery making and about their artistic works. So these commodities which were made by the potters and artisans were taken and were sold to the other people by the traders. So the traders helped in selling the commodities which were produced by the potters and the artisans. They traded with whom all did they have trading? They traded with Syria and Asia Minor in the west, and they traded in Iran, and not only in that, they came to India also and had trade relationship with the Indus Valley people in the eastern side. And how did they go from one place to another? They traveled using ships. Okay, when they wanted to go for sea trading or far off to distant places, they used ships to travel and take the commodities, and they traded to long distant places. Apart from that, how are we able to know all these information? See, the temples, which acted as storehouses and which was maintained by the priests and the scribes, these people, they used to lend money to the traders. Okay, because the traders wanted to procure the goods from the local artisans and potters, and they used to sell it to the people in distant places for which they were in need of money. So the temples were lending money on credit, okay, to the traders, and sometimes interest was collected, and from few people they did not collect interest also. The record was maintained by the scribe. The record of these, all these evidences shows that they had the practice of charging interest on the money that was borrowed. Okay, see, the act of charging interest for the loans has been in existence even during the Mesopotamian civilization. We are able to understand from the documents or the records which were maintained with references to the loans and the repayments made by the traders and others who borrowed. Next is about the cities and the town planning. when we talk of the cities and town planning, the Mesopotamian cities, how it was made? It was made out of mud or baked bricks. Baked bricks are the ones that we are using in the recent days. The red color, the cuboid, something which is like a cuboid, is it? The bricks. In Tamil, you call it a single. Okay, all these were baked, and it was only if it is baked, it will remain strong. So the houses were constructed using mud and baked bricks, and the walls had gates also. Some people, they lived in reed huts outside the cities. The people who lived in the cities, they constructed the houses using baked bricks. But people who were living outside the cities, that is the peasants and the poor people, they were using only reed huts. Reed huts means the small thatched roofed huts, where these huts were made out of the leftover dry veggies. Okay, whatever was left out of whatever was left, the vegetables or any part of the trees or anything which is left over, that was dried, and the hard substance of those dried vegetable waste, it was used for construction of huts. Such type of huts only you call it as reed huts. And the ziggurats, where were the ziggurats? It was in the center of the city, and it appeared almost like a steep pyramid. It was very tall, and it was almost steep pyramid like it was, and it had staircases which led to the top. And around the temples, so much of commercial complexes were there, like how we have the multiplex complexes now, no? So the surrounding the ziggurats only, there was so much of commercial areas. Not only commercial areas, the ceremonial courtyards, whatever was the ceremony functions of the royal people, all those were done only in the ceremonial courtyards. Apart from that, shrines were there. Shrines means the place where the deities, God statues are kept. Okay, shrines were there, and burial chambers. See, when the priest or the wife of the priest, that is priestess, when they died, they should be given royal cremation. So their bodies were buried in the burial chambers, which were in the ziggurats only, that is in the cities only. And ceremonial banquet halls, to perform the rituals, they had huge halls which was called as banquet halls. Along with that, they had workshops for training, granaries for storing of the food substances, and storehouses were there. And the administration of all these were done in the cities only, for which the buildings were also erected in the cities. This was the town planning system of the Sumerian people. Next, let us go to religion. What was the sort of religion that these people practiced? These Sumerians practiced polytheism. Okay, Sumerian religion was polytheistic. I told you, I remember telling about this when we discussed about Egyptian civilization. Monotheism means worshipping a single god. Polytheism means worshipping too many gods. Okay, god or goddesses. So they worshipped several gods and goddesses, and the Sumerians prayed to, who are the important gods? Just if I have the textbook, please underline it. They prayed to Enlil. Enlil was the god of sky and wind, like how you have in Tamil. According to Tamil mythology, we call Vayu Bhagavan. Okay, so we call Vayu Bhagavan. He is considered to be the god of wind. Like this, Enlil was the god of sky and wind, according to the Sumerian people. The city of Nippur was center of Enlil's worship. So they had the deity of Enlil god in the center of the city of Nippur. Ninlil was the Sumerian goddess of grain. Okay, see, normally we worship God for giving us good amount of food and all. Like that, in Tamil you call Annapurni, goddess Annapurni, who is we pray to goddess Annapurni for giving us enough amount of food. Okay, she is the god who is prayed for giving us sufficient amount of food. Like that, the Sumerian people worshipped the god called as Ninlil, who was considered to be the goddess of grains. Babylonians worshipped Marduk, and Ashur was the supreme god of the Assyrians. Okay, so Babylonians worshipped Marduk, Ashur was the god of Assyrians, Ishtar was the goddess of love and fertility. Okay, like how you have different god and goddesses in Tamil to render love and to give fertility. They worshipped the god called as goddess called as Ishtar. Tiamat, the god of the sea and chaos. Whenever there was chaos prevailing in their society, they worshipped the god Tiamat. And Sin was a god of was a moon god. Okay, the worship the moon god was called as Sin. According to us, we worship him as what? Chandran. The kings were seen as a representative of the gods on the earth. So how did they consider the kings as? They considered that the kings were the people who were sent by the god and goddess on the earth to take care of them. That was their beliefs. So they considered the kings as what? The representatives of the god itself. The Mesopotamians developed a rich collection of myths and legends. Not only that, these people had so much of myths. Myths means some false belief. Okay, they had false beliefs and legends. Legends means stories or the historical stories which are written about the people or the places which are belonging to historical or belonging to the ancient times. A book written based on the historical stories about the people and about the places of the ancient times, that you call it as legends. One of the important legend of these Sumerians were the Epic of Gilgamesh. Underline that. Epic of Gilgamesh. It was written in their language or the script called as cuneiform. Cuneiform was the written form of language of the Sumerians was called as cuneiform. So the Epic of Gilgamesh. Epics means whenever we talk of epic, what is considered to be epic according to Indians? Mahabharata and Ramayana are considered to be the great epics. Like this, for the Sumerians, Gilgamesh was considered to be the one of the biggest and famous epic, and it was written in their native language called as cuneiform. It contains a legend of flood and the similarities on account of Noah's ark mentioned in the Bible. Many of the important mentions which are mentioned in the Bible and which the myths which are mentioned in our Hindu Puranas also, all those informations were also available in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Okay, next is about the Hammurabi's law of code. Hammurabi, I think we have come across this name before. He was considered to be one of the important king during the Babylonian civilization, King Hammurabi. He was a person, I told you when I specified this name Hammurabi, I said I would refer to this, explain this in the latter part of the lesson. See, Hammurabi was the name of the ruler belonging to the Babylonian civilization. Why is he considered to be very important is because it was during his time that one of the important legal document, this document, it consisted of so much of laws where it specified different crimes. There are various crimes which were committed. For this crime, this is a particular punishment that has to be given, and this particular law, that is a law code, was called as Hammurabi's law code because it was prepared during the time of King Hammurabi. It contained 282 provisions, like how we call article in our Indian Penal Code and in our Constitution, is it? We call it article, subsection, section we call. Like that, this Hammurabi law code consisted of 282 provisions. All these will be specifying different crimes and the punishments for different crimes. What all were covered under the laws? The cases relating to family rights. Okay, and if any crime is committed with relating to the family, what is the punishment? Any crime relating to trade, if any person cheats the other person, depending on the severity of the problem, punishment was decided. Slavery, regarding taxes, if anyone is not paying the tax properly, what is the punishment? Wages, what is the amount of wages to be given for the people? What punishment is to be given to the people for giving poor wages also? So all these, the 282 provisions were carved on a stone, and this stone, it portrayed like as if Hammurabi was receiving the code. That is, code means it is a book, like it is a code, okay, from the sun god called Shamash. According to them, Shamash was considered to be the god of sun, and it is inscribed, it was carved in the stone like as if the king is receiving the code book from the god itself. And it is a compilation of old laws. All those were based on what? Retributive principles. Underline that. Retributive principles means according the punishments were given according to the severity of the crime. If the crime committed was small, the punishment was also small. If the crime committed was very severe, the punishment also was very severe. This you call it as retributive principles. That is giving punishment only according to the crime committed. So they called it as an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth form of justice was used in the Hammurabi Code. We say nowadays, we say no, tit for tat. Okay, what you do, you will get it back. Okay, so the punishment was based on the justice of what? An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Okay, next is you could see a cuneiform tablet. See, you could see so much of inscriptions, like some design inscriptions written on that. This is called as a cuneiform tablet. Cuneiform is the Sumerian writing system. So the writing system of the Sumerians was called as cuneiform. The shape of the letters, it is in the form of wedge. Okay, wedge means how shall I tell wedge means? See, a wedge is something like, it is either made out of wood or it can be made out of some iron implements. It will be flat on one end, on the other end it will have a sharp ending, and on the flat end the inscriptions were done, and it was stuck to the walls. Using the sharp end, it was stuck to the walls, and in the flattened end they had the inscriptions written. So that is the reason why even now we are able to interpret and decipher all the information about these people. It is one of the earliest script of the world. What? This cuneiform. And these scripts, it was for commercial transactions. The cuneiform script, where all did they use? Like how we are using our English language as for communication purpose or for transaction purpose, for all commercial purpose we are using English as a script, is it? Like that, this cuneiform was used as a script for commercial transactions and for writing letters and stories. I told you this Epic of Gilgamesh, it was written in cuneiform only. For writing the stories and epics also, the script was only used. The clay tablets contain loads of information on the Sumerian civilization. Apart from that, you could see a small clay tablet. This clay tablet, it has in it, okay, some pictures also, which tells that the information relating to those civilization is mentioned here. What is the sort of art these people had? The Mesopotamians' art included sculptures in stone and clay, and the paintings are found even today. Though the paintings and sculptural works of the Mesopotamians are found even in the recent days also. And what are these their sculptures? What did it portray? It portrayed animals like goats, rams, bulls, lions, which shows that these animals were living during the period of the Sumerians also, that is during the Mesopotamian civilization. And not only that, some mythological figures, okay, like lions and bulls with human head. See, normally it is not possible to have human head and body of a lion, but all those are myths. Myths means some false belief. Okay, and massive sculptures were created during the time of Assyrians and Babylonian Empire. Rams, a new word ram is there. Ram means a male sheep is called ram, because those people domesticated goats, rams and bulls for their agricultural activities. Next is about how did the development of the script happen? Okay, their script was developed. See, when we talk of the development of scripts, okay, it emerged in the Sumerian civilization, the latter part, almost 4th millennium it developed. Hieroglyphics was a script of the Egyptian civilization, where it developed during the early 3rd millennium. The Sumerian civilization, the script of cuneiform developed in the 4th millennium BC, and after that Harappans also developed during the same time only. See, the cuneiform scripts are given here. You could look into your book also. And regarding signs, Okay, what all these people were good at, this Mesopotamian people. See, these people belonging to the Mesopotamian civilization, they were very good at mathematics. Not only mathematics, about medicine, they learnt about, they excelled means coming out successful in something, in any aspect or streamline, you call it as excelling. Astronomy they were good at, and they were the people who developed the concept of multiplication, division and cubic equations. That is what I think you should be knowing what is square root, cubic equations. And these people were the ones who devised the numerical system based on 60. That is 60 seconds made 1 minute, 60 minutes make 1 hour, and 24 hours a day, and a circle means 365 degrees make a circle. These people only developed this, and they also developed the Sumerian calendar using the lunar calendar, using the lunar a movement, that is the movement of the moon. Using the lunar movement, they developed the lunar calendar. Water clocks were used for measuring the time. And apart from that, these people were very good at mathematics. It's shown like how, you know, they were able to weigh the weight of a body and the area of a solid, and they were able to do the measure, develop advanced weighing systems also, that is measuring systems also, they were able to do it. And these people, they only invented the 12-month calendar system based on the lunar months. And not only that, their contribution to the medical science was also on the higher side. They wrote a text called as Diagnostic Handbook. Okay, in this Diagnostic Handbook, it shows what are the symptoms. Okay, if this symptom is there, this is the remedial measure. This is the they were able to bring out symptoms and prognosis. Prognosis means if this is a symptom, what is the outcome of this? If you have running nose, what is the outcome? It is a symptom that you are going to get cold, is it? If you're having headache, what is the symptom? There is all possibility that you might get fever also. If our body temperature increases, what is the symptom? It is a symptom that there is some viral infection into our body. That is a prognosis. So these people, they wrote a book, created a book called as Diagnostic Handbook. Underline that. When during the 11th century, where it listed so much of symptoms and the prognosis for that. Prognosis means forecasting or outcomes. Okay, all these they, apart from that, they were using so much of herbs and minerals in their scientific studies. And this final paragraph is a conclusion of the Mesopotamian civilization. These people, they invented potter's wheel, and they developed the calendar system of 365 days and divided the circle into 365 units. Otherwise, we call it as degrees. Cuneiform was their system of writing, and so much of contributions were made using their script cuneiform. And Hammurabi Code is one of the important legacies of the Mesopotamian civilization. So with this, we are finishing today's class, and I shall give you the homework. I shall post the homework in the group. Okay, I want you to copy that in the classwork notebook. Okay, children. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.